Okay, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Let's do a roll call.
Senator Brennan. Senator Furphy. Senator Furphy. Senator Kolb.
Present.
Senator Pappas. Chairman Boner.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Everybody, welcome to Senate Transportation. I'm going to be presiding over this first bill. The good chairman has asked me to do that since it's his bill. So my mention to everyone, please silence your cell phones or devices. Just make sure they don't interrupt us, and we'll get into it. Senator Boner, please, we'll be addressing Senate file number 123, military dependence school choice.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing this bill dealing with an issue that is near and dear to my heart. It's something that maybe you've heard in the news. Unfortunately, over the past couple of years, there's been some challenges that our airmen stationed, particularly at Warren Air Force Base, have been dealing with harassment and discrimination in the community. And I just want to stay right up front. I understand. I had the opportunity to live here for 6.5 years while I was stationed as an airman at Warren Air Force Base, and it's not the Cheyenne that I remember, but I certainly have been heartened by the overall positive reaction from the community and its leaders. The Chamber of Commerce, City of Cheyenne, Mayor Collins have all shown great leadership, as has Governor Gordon, and making sure that this sort of behavior is unacceptable. I can even point to a positive development in the Chamber of Commerce with the Adopt an Airman program, which builds a meaningful connection between members of the base and members of the community. And unfortunately, I don't think we've seen quite as much progress in the local school district. I can tell you that 3 airmen families have moved early. They have left Wyoming early. Got special permission from the wing commander, who supervises over 4,000 personnel that are the 90th Missile Wing, to go ahead and leave Wyoming early and get that permanent change of station accomplished. And it all had to deal with not them being harassed, but with their children being harassed in the school district. And so what this does is it empowers those parents to make decisions that are right for their family and hopefully keep them in Wyoming and keep them in the public school district. And so that's what the bill does. So it's basically a school choice program within the district, similar to what Natrona County number 1 does. But we want to make sure we didn't want to be too disruptive, so there's a little bit of a balance there. So that's what the bill does, making sure that these kids are, if they're in a toxic situation, they could find a new school and get out of that situation. Like I said, staying in Wyoming and staying in the school district, because right now they're leaving the state. So as far as details go, first of all, this is dealing with active duty military. This isn't reserves or National Guard. The challenge has been with the active duty unit. You'll see paragraph B on page 2 gives them that ability to transfer without school board permission right now. If you do want to go to school outside the boundaries, as it happens to be right now in the school district that when you have to have special permission by the school board. This says the parents in control, not the school board. But one of the sideboards is that they have to have filed an official complaint at the base equal opportunity office. So it's just not going to be something that anybody can do just because they want. There has to be a problem. I think that's one of the limiting factors. Is really going to make sure that we're not disrupting all the other students in the school district. Going on paragraph C, the school district can decline to transfer a pupil if they don't have room in the current school. I know that in some schools, especially in this district, there are capacity issues. Like I said, we don't want to throw any other kids out of their current classroom or be disruptive to members of the community. And so we have that one. Obviously, if the pupil, for whatever reason, is being suspended or expelled, we don't want to circumvent that process with this bill. But if they are going to deny, they're going to have to explain. The school board's going to have to explain to the superintendent, make sure the superintendent is aware, so there's some accountability there. And once again, it's only for those 2 very specific reasons. Paragraph E, we don't want to have this bill be misconstrued. You're not going to, these military kids aren't going to be able to get into a special competitive program. They're not going to get that, starting spot on the varsity team. They're not going to be a part of that academic club that has a competitive enrollment. Simply by virtue of this bill, that's still going to be merit-based on all of it. And once again, if in the case a parent or guardian feels like they have not been treated fairly, they can appeal to the superintendent. A little bit of cleanup, we're just adding this additional duty to the school board members on page 4 going on to page 5, and an effective date of July 1. So that's the bill, that's what it does. I hope that we've threaded the needle between providing meaningful empowerment for parents of our military parents. This is, as far as I'm concerned, a readiness issue. The wing commander of 9th Missile Wing, responsible for over 4,000 personnel, 150 nuclear-tipped ballistic missiles directly to the President of the United States, has sit for hours in a school board meeting and only received a superficial resolution that did nothing. So this is a distraction at a very inopportune time, considering the importance of the national security mission of Warren Air Force Base. And I just hope that we can move forward this bill to, if nothing else, empower these parents who already have tremendous responsibilities, and to send a very clear message that that we do welcome and support our military members in this state. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator Boner. Questions? Senator Furphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Boner, if I could ask a question on page 2, line 15. So if I'm reading this correctly, the purpose of a student moving or proposing to move to a different school is that they were discriminated against? Is that correct?
That's correct. They have to file a complaint with, and it's a base office. It's part of the unit that deals with equal opportunity or discrimination types of challenges. And it's not just, it's not just your HR department. It could be with it could be on the base, it could be in the community. So yes, they have to file that complaint first.
Other questions, committee? Based on, to that point, is bullying considered discrimination?
Well, I think that's fundamentally what we're dealing with,
Well, no,
but it's racially charged bullying.
There's other kinds of discrimination outside of bullying, but that would be part of it, right? I mean, discrimination to me is against sex, race, all the 6 or so reasons why we protect those classes. But I didn't know about bullying. I mean, you could not discriminate. It could just be that has nothing to do with whether that person, it's their race or their. It would seem to me then, if it was just bullying, then we're giving a special consideration to a certain class of folks, Air Force people or military people. I don't know, question.
Right. Yeah, so it's, we want to keep it broad. I'd say that, these complaints aren't filed lightly. Half the unit is on the personnel reliability program. In my experience, so filing that complaint could remove them from their duties for some period of time. So I don't think that if the concern is that they're just going to file a complaint just because they want to, move schools or wherever the case may be. I just, having served in that capacity, I say that, my concern is just the opposite. Most people don't report things that maybe they're required to report because they want to keep on doing the mission. And so, I'd say that once again, the focus is mission readiness. And so we don't want to, if your kid is being harassed because of any other reason, I'd say that's still an issue. That's why we kept it just at discrimination.
Thank you. Another question I have too is, it seems like the action is triggered by only the filing of the complaint, not necessarily the finding of the complaint. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then one other thing, it looks like to me, the school district, if they decline to transfer the student, they'll seek review accordance to the Wyoming Administration Procedures Act. And so it gets reviewed, but if this district continues to decline even after the review, what course of action is there against the school district, I guess, to actually force the transfer?
Right, so that is course of action. If they have that appeal, they have to the state superintendent. And once again, keep in mind that they can only deny it if it's if there's a capacity issue or if the kid's being expelled.
So the state superintendent has the authority to make them transfer a student?
Yes, and that's why we have the provision in there that they get some expert advice as far as capacity issues go. Since that's in reviewing with staff, they do not necessarily have that in-house. You need the state construction department, from my understanding. And so, yes, the superintendent would be able to overrule that.
Okay. That's all my questions. Committee, any further questions? Thank you, Senator Boner. I'll open it up now to, do we have anyone from the school district first? Or the Department of Education available to speak to us? I don't think there's any, I see the list of folks online. I don't see the departments on there.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a couple of people online, but no one with their hand up as of yet.
Okay, well, I'd like to either hear from the district, and apparently not. So then I'll open it up to public, any public that wants to. Mr. Winnie, please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Winnie, Sublette County. I most strongly support the bill. Across my moves on active duty, we had some things that came up with school systems. The first one was my youngest boy in Omaha, Nebraska, had a poor teacher in first and second grade, and he ended up with a serious reading deficiency that we finally corrected later by pulling him out of school and going into a special program for a couple weeks. My wife is a career educator, master's degree in reading education, graduated with distinction with that degree, which means a 4.0 average, something I never achieved in my career. Then following that, out on the island of Guam, where we were out for a couple years, we ended up pulling our two younger kids out of the public school system and homeschooling them. Something my wife had said as a career educator she'd never do, but that was the best choice we had. Our oldest boy we pulled out of school and put into the local Catholic parochial school because of the educational system there. The upshot of that was, as I departed, or as we departed the island, I brought the USS Holland back to Puget Sound. From there, I wrote a letter via my chain of command about the experience we had. That letter fundamentally changed the military dependence education on that island. And so what you're facing, in fact, you asked the question of Chairman here just a second ago, what choices do you have? Well, you have choices, which is pull your kids out and homeschool them, which is one we did. Or you could go to another school, like a charter school or whatever. And those choices can impact the money flow into your school districts. And so the school districts need to pay attention when they see something like this developing with a military child, because, I mean, it was very clear between my wife and I as we looked at what was going on with our kids in these schools. we were not going to put up with what was going on, and we were going to find another solution. Chairman Boner brought up the issue of the personnel reliability program status of the active duty member. I was under that much of my career also. I wouldn't have thought that filing a complaint like this would have pulled somebody out of PRP status, but if it does, it does. The Air Force runs a different system than the Navy ran. But the military members will make those choices. In my case, we moved 19 times in 30 years of active duty. The good news is after we had our children, there was only about 7 moves. So I guess that lessens the impact a little bit. But anyway, bottom line, I strongly support the bill. I would offer you that maybe you expanded the criteria beyond just a equal opportunity type complaint. Subject to your questions, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitney. Any questions, Committee of Mr. Whitney? Appreciate it. Thank you. Any further public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Committee, what's your pleasure? Okay, we'll move approval of the bill. Mr. Chairman, you want to take over? You want me to finish? Okay, I'll finish this one. The bill's been moved. Do we, it's a short bill, so I don't think I'll go page by page. I would request that if you have any amendments in any place, please speak up now. Or address the bill, either way. Senator Furphy.
Yeah, I think
Put microphone, please.
I think Mr. Winnie makes a good point about, seems like we should expand this beyond just discrimination under the equal opportunity. It seems like there should be other reasons that parents would want to move a child out of a school. I really haven't taken the time to expand that. Maybe we go ahead and approve the bill as it is, and we could look at an amendment on the floor or something.
Need a second.
Chairman Boner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that was a consideration. Like I said, the bill, I think, is carefully balanced to ensure that we aren't disruptive to every other, kid in the district. And so, I mean, if you do that, the consequence would be taken from, potentially moving, I'd say less than a dozen, if I had, I guess, to about 10% of the student population in Laramie County, number one. So that would be a pretty significant step. It's something we could consider, but once again, I don't think this is about improving the relationships between the base and the community. If kids start getting kicked out of their classrooms or going to different schools because of this program, I'm not sure if that would have the outcome that I'm looking for. Now, of course, the other alternative is if 10% of your student population has effectively a school choice program, maybe they just go to the school choice program in Trumbull County. So that could be a consideration, but for now, certainly, I wouldn't be offended, but maybe some folks in Laramie County would. So,
Senator Kolb.
Just a question on the committee.
Microphone.
Why, thank you, Acting Chairman Pappas. The question on the committee, we don't need to second a bill once it's been moved.
It's up to the chairman of the committee.
no, I think we've.
All right, thank you. First committee, that wasn't needed, so thank you.
I have to agree with the good chairman. I think broadening the bill actually will be detrimental to what we're trying to do, what he's trying to do. I think we're trying to correct a problem, and there's not a problem in any other sphere or any other area of school placement of military children, with the exception of this discrimination problem we have here. So I think if we broaden it, we may be trying to correct problems we don't have. So I think we're good here. Certainly, if you think different, we can bring another amendment down the line. Senator Furphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, my wife's a retired special ed teacher, and I think of instances where they have students that have learning disabilities in certain areas, and so that's where I was headed, Mr. Chairman, is maybe we need more than just discrimination, but I understand your point. If we broaden it too much, it might not pass, so.
Certainly, Senator Furphy, if there's issues with children with learning disabilities, there's only certain schools that they have staff that will handle children with, on a PALS program or one of the other programs that will deal with special needs children. And I don't think that's a problem. Again, I don't know. I think the bringer of the bill wants to deal with the problem that we've seen here, and that has been solely discrimination. So, committee, any further questions? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I think we'll ask for the roll call then.
Senator Brennan?
Aye.
Senator
Aye.
Furphy?
Aye.
Senator Kolb?
Aye.
Acting Chairman Pappas?
Aye.
Chairman Boner?
Aye.
Okay, I
Five
relinquish.
ayes.
Thank you. I relinquish the chair back to the chairman.
Okay, thank you, Senator. Okay, next up, we have Senate File 38. Senator Schuler, you are up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bring you Senate File 38, special license plates, organ donations. This bill actually is a rehab of a bill I brought last year, and it hasn't changed. We got it through our side, but maybe not the other side. I'm not sure I can even report that, but ran out of time. So we brought it back because we think it's a worthy bill. Just to give you a little background on the nexus for the bill, one of my constituents over in Bridger Valley, his son has been a recent heart transplant organ recipient. And he and his father were the ones that brought this bill to me and asked about taking a look at a specialty plate. I think the thing that really convinced them that they needed to do this was that while he waited for his organ, one of his friends that he made at the hospital that he was at passed away waiting for an organ. He got his, but his friend didn't. And I think he felt bad about that. So this bill is just basically a way to raise awareness with our Wyoming residents with the importance of organ donation. And just to give you a few quick facts about it, there's about 150,000 people on the waiting list nationwide waiting for organs, and about 150 in Wyoming. We have a pretty good percentage of people that do sign up to be organ donors. It's about 63%. So we're right up there, we do pretty well. But hopefully this bill will raise a little bit more awareness and we can raise those numbers even higher. I know I found out even last year when I did a little research on this that I always thought there was a cutoff on the age. Anybody can do, even up to they've had people up to age 100 that have been able to donate. And not only that, the thing that's kind of interesting is one donor can save more than 75 people just with their tissue donation. One donor can save the sight of 2 individuals with eye donation. Unfortunately, there's about 17 people who die each day waiting for a life-saving organ. So even some of the medical conditions I thought that would preclude you from being able to donate, most of the time they can still use some of your organs. So it's definitely a worthwhile thing. So with the bill, it just basically says that we'll have application forms available at each county treasurer's office, and it'll just include space there to offer an option for you to donate $1 or more to promote awareness and education. It'll go into a separate account to the Department of Health. You don't have to donate anything if you don't want to. You You can just sign up to be an organ donor, just like you normally would if you go to, to get your license plate or whatever. So if you want to pay more, that's great. And then that money will go into a special account to the Department of Health. And then they have an advisory council, and they'll decide how to promote organ donor awareness. There's going to be a distinctive symbol on the license plate. It just indicates the owner's support for organ donation. There have to be about 1,000 sets that will have to be bought by 2031, or it'll be eliminated from production. I sent a handout around. You can maybe take a look at Bryson, and he's been collecting license plates from around the country. I think there's 39 states, if I'm right, and I think I am, that have this available. So it'd be great for us to be the 40th. Like I said, he's a great example of somebody that got an organ. He's healthy. I know he's involved in sports and other activities. In fact, last year when he testified, he was at a school practice for the play. So he's kind of one of the real success stories in our state. And if you just take a look, I don't know if you have any questions on the actual bill itself, but I think he might be able to zoom in tonight and give you a little bit of a background as well. So with that, I would stand for questions.
Okay, any questions for the prime sponsor? Senator Kolb.
Thank you, Chairman Boner. This is my first chance to look at the many license plates the state of Wyoming has put out. So the first question is, what is it going to cost the counties to do this?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, Senator Kolb, it actually won't cost them anything. The only cost will be for YDOT to get the logo ready, to get it, to be able to put it on the plate. I think the fiscal note was 30,000, but I can't remember. I should have that down, Pat, but I think that's about what it takes to get a new plate. And so if you look around, we have, the wildlife plates, we have a variety of different plates. The fire folks sometimes have a specialty plate. There's a number of them out there. So it does take a little bit of money from YDOT to just, to make the form and to get it on there. But it does not count, it doesn't cost the county anything. They'll have a form available, but it'll be the same form that YDOT has. Go ahead and sign here, add $1 if you want, don't add $1 if you don't want, or any money. Or if you'd like to donate more, but it won't cost the counties anything.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
Number of special plates in the state?
I used to know the number.
Well, best guess.
Yeah, there are some out there. And some of those, quite frankly, I mean, like the wildlife folks, I mean, their money goes in to pay for all of the things that they do with the wildlife. And I think it's a great thing. And everybody else has their own reason for having the specialty plate. This one is strictly to just let people know when you drive by that you are an organ, not necessarily that you're an organ donor, doesn't necessarily say you are, but it says that you are, a proponent of organ donation. And like I said, it's not going to cost like some of the plates do. It really, other than just the initial setup, that's all it will cost.
Just another question. And why couldn't we use a bumper sticker to do this?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Kolb, you could. I just think that, like I said, with 39 states out there, I think they've done this for the same reason that we know there's people that are dying every day that are waiting around for an organ. I don't think unless sometimes it affects you, and I know of some folks that have been waiting for organ donation and didn't make it. This is just, like I say, a success story. I think it's just such a worthwhile project that I think it requires more than a bumper sticker. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, we live in the least populated state in the United States, and I can assure you my nephew, who received a heart when he was 1 year or less than a year old, is, I'm sure, quite happy, but he lives in the East Coast where there's literally millions and millions of people. And so I just have an issue with having a gazillion plates out there. I think it diminishes the plates eventually. I mean, I'm not saying this is the least deserving of all the license plates. It seems like if we have so many, it doesn't mean much. And that's my concern. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. That's actually, I kind of feel the opposite way. When I see someone go down the the road and I see that they're a veteran, or I see that they're with the fire and the ambulance folks, I almost want to just tip my hat and say, hey, thanks for your service. So I actually really like it, but that's just a personal thing. So I understand what you're saying. I would just disagree with you, but, you know, that's certainly your opinion.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too have to disagree with you. Might bother you. Certainly doesn't bother me. I enjoy the multiple plates. The more the better, as far as I'm concerned. And frankly, I don't care whether we don't have millions of people in this state. If we don't get 1,000 people to do it, program goes away. So I'm hoping we get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, whatever. And I'm hoping for all the other folks that have specialty plates. I think it's a good thing. I don't fear having multiple plates. Not an issue that keeps me up at night. In fact, I enjoy, as you do, seeing them. So, but as far as the cost, it says 6,600 anticipated expenditure, but that's offset by the 3,750 increases. And after 2 years, it's no dollars, right? You might.
Correct.
That's what I heard?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, Mr. Chairman. I don't know where I got 30,000. I think I'm thinking of another bill, so I
Yeah, it was-
apologize for that
Yeah, it was
misinformation.
3,750 of revenue in the next 2 years, and a $6,600 initial outlay, I guess. Thank you.
Yeah, you must have been thinking about how much we wouldn't be paying in sales tax for our lodging or something, right? So- Okay, any further questions for the sponsor? Okay, do we have anybody from YDOT? Anybody from the department? We'll hear from them next. Yeah, we'll do agencies first. So if there's somebody from YDOT, they can come on down and make sure we get all of our facts straight here before we go to public comment. So. Okay, welcome. Please introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Mr. Chairman, Debbie Lopez with the Wyoming Department of Transportation.
Okay, and is your microphone on? That's fair. Yeah, a little bit closer. Thank you. Okay, yeah.
Okay. Debbie Lopez, YDOT. So YDOT can administer the bill the way it's written with a couple of changes. On page 2, line 20, it talks about how the donation will be forwarded to the county treasurer and then to the state treasurer. The donation would come on the application and the application comes to YDOT. So it would kind of be redundant for YDOT to send it to the county treasurer and then them send it to the state treasurer. So if you would take out the by the county treasurer, I think YDOT could just send it to the treasurer. And then the other thing is the effective date, July 1 of 23. There's no way we could get that done if it passed in this session by July. So we would recommend like January 1 of 24.
Okay, is that what you got? Is that all?
Yes.
Okay, any questions for YDOT? Okay, just because I'm curious, how long is that? How long it takes to design a new plate? And just a little bit more information. That's why that is.
We have to design it probably in conjunction with the person that sponsored the bill. We have to get our programming changed. And I know we only have one programmer at the moment that works on this, and she's working on the driver services program. So then we also have to make sure the design works for YDOT. Then we have to send it down to Canyon City because they're the ones that do our embossed plates. And we have to make sure that they can fit it into their schedule too for the people that purchase them embossed. So we have to get the picture to fit on our printing equipment and the Canyon City's printing equipment.
Okay. Senator Pappas.
Mr. Chairman, I actually don't think we actually change the effective date of the act. The act will have to go into place at the end of the year. or at the beginning of the fiscal year, but the date of availability of the plate could be a later date. I think, I mean, because if we say January 1st, you can't even work on it until then. So I think we need to make an amendment where we allow the act to go into effect. And I know there's language out there. We've done it on plenty of other bills. I'll have to look it up, but allow them to go ahead with planning on the effective date. And then create a second date when the actual plates would be available.
Well, are you thinking of the immediate rulemaking authority in anticipation of the effective date, or is this something different?
No, not rulemaking. I think the whatever they have to do to be able to, and maybe we don't. Maybe we make the effective date and we don't care what date they pick it to make the plates available. I don't know. I could talk to this. We could ask the sponsor if she had any thoughts on that. But certainly plates wouldn't be available July 1. But we would want the ball to start rolling on July 1. And you know, if we want a certain date, or put in there that the plates will be available at a reasonable date after the effective date of the act, or something like that. And I'm sure we could probably pass it like it is now, leave it at July 1, 2024, and then maybe we could come up some language on committee of the whole amendment and find out. I know there's language out there. We've done it on other bills. I just don't have it right now to be able to put it in an amendment.
Yeah, so was that similar, that January 1st recommendation, was that similar to other license plates bills that have passed recently? I'm thinking of like the one of the wildlife ones. It seems to be that perhaps that'd be an easy reference to see how we do this.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, it feels like we've always done July 1, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be something easy to look up that maybe even somebody could do in the audience right now. Who knows? Yeah, perhaps the committee of the whole amendment once we get that figured out. So, okay, any further questions for YDOT? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, so public comment. Come on down now, sir. That's, yeah. And if you're online, feel free to raise your hand, and we'll get to you here once we get done with the in-person testimony. So, gentlemen, welcome to Transportation. Please introduce yourselves and proceed with your testimony.
I think we're on. Mr. Chairman, I'm Lanny Applegate. I'm representing the Wyoming Fire Chiefs. And we come here, and with me is Shad Cooper. He's from the Pinedale area, and Jerry Parker from Park County area. So we're all representing the Wyoming Fire Chiefs. Some of the statistics I'd like to add to what the good senator said, as she mentioned, there's somewhere around 130 to 100 people in Wyoming and 1,500 in our region that's currently waiting for a life-saving organ. And there's more than 100,000 people nationwide waiting for a transplant. So in 2022, there was 278, as this was put to me, heroic organ donors from Colorado and Wyoming, which resulted in 829 life-saving organ transplant. That's a 19% increase in donors and a 29% increase in transplant compared to 2021. In addition to this lives saved through organ donation, the organization also worked with 1,911 tissue donors and their families to recover life-saving and healing tissues, which will help up to 143,000 families. So the other thing the plate does is it also increases the awareness. As was mentioned before, when you're driving down the street, you see that on a plate, you think, yeah, kudos to them. And same as we heard before, if I see a veteran plate going down the road, you know, that means a lot to me. I recall back several years ago, Senator Johnson, he was opposed to some of these specialty plates. Well, when the military ones went through, his number was United States Coast Guard #1. So he was the first one in line, and that meant a lot to him. And so with that, like I say, we strongly stand behind this. The guy that young man you're going to see on Zoom here shortly, I got to follow his story several months every year before he got his transplant. I watched it all the way through. I got pictures of the transplant. I mean, it was an amazing journey for this young man, and he's here today to tell his story because of organ donations. So with that, I'd stand for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Applegate? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Winnie, I think you're not, oh, okay, Mr. Winnie, then Mr. Jensen, how about that? So, or you can come down and,
Come on up.
yeah.
There's room for more than one. Mr. Chairman, Bill Winnie, Sublette County. I'd like to offer you a slightly different reason for supporting the bill strongly. If you think about organ donation, time is of the essence. And if you think about what happens at an accident scene, a vehicular accident scene, law enforcement arrives, EMS arrives, having them immediately know there may be an organ donor in that vehicle is of great benefit to the rest of the system, because if it turns out that's what's coming, they know to immediately get on it and get something going. So I offer you, that's another reason why this bill should be supported, subject to your questions. Well, I would offer you, I had a couple cases across my career where I handled some significant casualties, one major casualty. You know, what's going through your mind in those first 30 seconds to 2 or 3 minutes makes a difference. Subject to your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Winnie. Any questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Bob Jensen. I'm with the law firm of Holland and Hart, and today I'm representing the Wyoming, Colorado Donor Alliance organization. The Donor Alliance is one of 57 organ procurement organizations, or OPO, in the country that serve nearly all of Wyoming and Colorado. They don't serve the 3 southwestern counties in Wyoming, but they work very closely with the Donor Connect organization out of Utah. And that's where the bill originates. To be brief, there's been a lot of stats, and we agree with all those stats. We're in support of this bill. I think it's one thing you should know is that Wyoming is very supportive of this in general, our residents. 61% donor designation rate, which is in the top 5 of the nation, which we can be very proud of. And this will hopefully increase that even more. But I just want to make sure that you're aware that the Donor Alliance is very active here and is happy to support this bill and very appreciative of the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Jensen? Okay, thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. Oh, Sarah Baldwin, I probably should have noticed that you were around, so thanks for coming on by. You have any testimony?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually just came down to make sure you guys were doing something. You didn't go home.
Don't give us any ideas.
So I'm Senator Fred Baldwin, and I've been working with this bill for a couple of years now, and I don't want to belabor it because I think the important person's going to come up on the screen here in a minute. Bryson's a great kid. He has a great tale to tell, a great journey, and fortunately, he's a lot better looking than his dad, who will probably be on screen as well. But I encourage your support of this bill, and I think that Mr. Applegate gave the important thing, and this is all about recognition. You may not run out today when this bill passes and sign up for organ donation, but every time you see a license plate, it adds to the possibility. It puts it in your mind, and it puts it in people's minds, and I think that's important. It's often overlooked. We don't think about it much. You know, we don't think about when we have an accident or when we've, whatever happens to us. And I think this adds that recognition, and I think that's important. And I really strongly encourage this committee to move this bill forward. I know you don't have any questions of me, but go ahead if you want.
Okay, well, we'll find out. Any questions for the senator? Thank you, sir. Okay, it looks like we've exhausted the in-person testimony. Let's go ahead and move online, see who we've got.
Mr. Chairman, I've admitted 2 people
Okay,
online.
it looks like we have Eric Quinney officially, but it looks like we have a guest. So gentlemen, please introduce yourselves and proceed with your testimony.
Hello, I'm Eric Quinney, and this is my son Bryson. We are the ones
So
that.
go ahead and stand by. We actually can't hear you. It looks like you're unmuted. I think it might be on our end here. So just a second here. Okay, can you say something real quick, see if we got you?
Are you able to hear us now?
We've got nothing. You're showing up. It's your little box is green. You see that you're unmuted.
Are they using the right microphone?
Test, test, test.
Okay, can you say something again, Mr. Quinney?
Yeah, can you hear us now? Test.
We cannot
test.
hear you, but we can actually see you, the text of what you're saying on the bottom of the screen. So we'll go ahead and try to do it that way. I'm fairly certain we have a tech issue here in the room. So maybe we can get IT down here. So, but we can read what you are saying. So let's go ahead and give that a try, see how it goes. Once again, I apologize. So.
Okay, I'm Eric Quinney, and this is my son Bryson. We are the ones who approached Senator Schuler to bring about this bill. Bryson was born with only half of his heart. His right side of his heart never developed, and when he was born, we quickly found that out. And by the age 3, he had had 3 open heart surgeries. And by the time he was in middle school, he was on oxygen full time and went to school with an IV pump to try to help his heart function, which then necessitated a heart transplant need. He was listed for a heart transplant in September of 2019, and he received his gift of life in March of 2020 at Primary Children's Hospital in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I emailed all the committee members some pictures showing Bryson, who's now thriving 16-year-old, playing football, soccer, and basically doing whatever he wants because of the gift of life. And we feel like this bill is super important to increase awareness so that other people can have the gift of life like Bryson. And Bryson, do you want to tell them about your friend Mackenzie?
Yeah, so while I was waiting for my heart in the hospital in 2020, I had a really good friend named Mackenzie Madsen. She was in the hospital for 200 days before I arrived at Primary Children's waiting for a heart and kidney. And she originally had a heart transplant, but had some later complications to where she needed a second one. And unfortunately, in July of 2020, she was never able to receive the gift of life and passed away from complications of her heart and kidney. So I feel like organ donation is really, really important to me. It saved my life for sure and made me able to play football, play soccer, go to school. But some people aren't lucky. So I feel like spreading awareness is very, very big so we can get more people to sign up to be organ donors.
We thank you for listening, and we just urge support of this bill. And we wanted to be there in person, but because Bryson missed almost 2 years of school with his heart transplant process and the pandemic, we felt like it was best for him to be in school today and tomorrow. But thank you.
Okay, well, thanks. It's important to, stay in school. Appreciate that. And thank you for sharing your testimony. And certainly a touching story and appreciate that. It worked out in your case. And of course, we're always saddened to hear about the ones that didn't work out. So thank you for sharing that as well. So committee, any questions for our guests here? Hey, gentlemen, thanks for joining us. It's a wonder of Zoom that, you don't have to drive all the way down I-80, I assume, in weather like this. And it's good to see your faces and glad, like I said, glad you're doing well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other testimony?
Mr. Chairman, we have a Juanita Mayer on.
Okay. Ms.
Are you
Mayer,
able-
you're up.
Are you able to hear me? Can you hear
We
me?
can't hear you, but we can see the text of what you're saying, but
Okay,
we can't see you either. So if you have a video, please turn it on.
Well, I've got my mic on and I thought it would probably overwhelm it if I tried to put the video on. So I'm just going to use your time well and start. I have been lucky enough to know Bryson. I was his 6th grade teacher. And so I was able to watch his heart transplant journey. But a year and a half ago, we were also able to watch the donor journey from a parent perspective. Our son, who was 31 years old, had a brain aneurysm and was able to be a life-saving donor for 5 people. Okay, I'm going to allow the camera there. Maybe that will let you see me. Okay. Anyway, our oldest son was a life-saving donor. And like one of the gentlemen earlier said, time is of the essence with organ donation. It is so critically important that people know right away and have thought through donation, just because you don't have a lot of time to choose or to decide. Even though we have a lot of people who are donors on their driver's licenses in Wyoming, it's not as simple as it might seem. For heart and lung transplants, it is, I believe, absolutely necessary to be a hospital death. It's not like, or you have to be on life support to do those donations, but it's even more complex than that. There is a national database of tissue types, and right away, people are prioritized for organ donation. Of the people that were good matches for our son, it took 11 offers for his to be a good match. The very first people, of course, were too sick to endure the operation, so they weren't able to accept his heart. Several of the recipients needed both heart and lungs, and so they weren't able to take it. One of the next ones was from Washington State, and that was too far to transport the heart. And the ones that really broke our heart were when they said that the heart was too large, and our daughter-in-law said, they're kids. And little kids don't even have driver's licenses to say that they're donor or potential donors. And so it's really important that families have talked through this. And if you do have a child die, that they can use that 30 seconds to 1 minute or whatever it is to make that decision. A license plate is an amazing conversation starter so that within a family or within a community, you can have conversations about organ donation so that that time can be, so that you can make that decision so quickly. Even if it only stimulates one conversation, it can make the difference in life and death for up to 6 people. Organ donation can bring healing to the donor families, and it can save lives of people like Bryson. So I would encourage you to support this bill to help start conversations and maximize donations. Thank you for listening to our stories.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing your stories. I do appreciate it. Any questions, committee? Okay, thank you once again for your input. It's, stories like these that make these, pieces of paper we're looking at real, and so I do appreciate your time to testify in front of the committee today. Okay, looks like we're done with public comment. Anybody else online? Okay, public comment is closed. Committee, what's your pleasure? Okay, moved by Senator Pappas. Any discussion? Amendments? Okay, do we want to, before we get to the discussion, do we want to try that technical amendment first? Page 2, line 20. So I think that what we heard from YDOT is that I'll entertain a motion on page 2, line 20, delete by the county treasurer. Okay, so moved by Senator Pappas, looks like. Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Opposed say no. The motion carries. Any discussion? Senator Kolb.
Thank you, Chairman Boner. So to be real clear, God bless people that find donors. God bless people who survive. So, it's a gift of life. My issue is, and I think it was really came out a little early in testimony, that we're now comparing these things to military, fire, Purple Heart folks, that drive down the street with a specialty plate. And therein lies my issue in separation of things. I do not consider those things the same. I will stand here and defend that to the end. Military people, people that got hurt in service, people that put themselves in the line of duty to serve the public. It's a different situation. So my issue is just putting out a bunch of different plates that I think, frankly, I see it taking away from these other things. And I'm not taking away from anybody who needs an organ transplant. I don't mean that at all. And the fact about numbers in the state of Wyoming, well, it's numbers, it's math. Sorry, it's the truth. Math is we don't have a lot of folks in our state, and that goes by what we're trying to increase. I think we've got a great group of people, sign up to be donors. That's great. I would hope, pray to God, that people wouldn't look at the license plate and take a donor, take out your part out of you because they think you're a donor. I would hope that doesn't happen. It's on your license, if you're a donor. And I don't think, frankly, I wish they'd accept my organs, and I give them, but I don't think anybody would want them because, got a stent in my heart. I don't think they want that, but God bless people that do it. My point is, I really respect the military. I respect all those groups of people, and I think they deserve a special designation. And that's my concern about this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any further discussion? Senator Brannan.
Thank you, Chairman Boder. I'm going to have to, Chairman Boner, I just want to say, I have been on the end of taking care of the patient who has passed away and is going to be giving their organs. And we've talked a lot about people giving their donors, being designated on a donor registration, but what we haven't talked about is what this license plate, I think, can help to address, is the importance of having those conversations if you are a donor with your family before that happens. And I think this license plate can do that. Because when you lose a loved one to tragic accident, you don't know if they were a registered donor or you never had that conversation with them. We lose in the process. I'm not going to go through the process because we'd be here for forever. But the process is long, it's complicated for somebody to be a donor. It's not just as simple as putting something on your driver's license. And it's imperative that we have awareness so that families can have these discussions, so that our waiting lists aren't as long, and so that people who need the donations have the donations, because without that public discussion, it really makes it difficult on the family's end, on my end, on donors' end. So for that reason, I am for this bill.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Or do you have something?
No, I was
Oh,
just
okay,
getting ready
okay,
to vote.
okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Senator Brennan. Senator Furphy.
Aye.
Senator Kolb.
No.
Senator Pappas.
Aye.
Chairman Boner.
Aye.
4 ayes, 1 no.
Okay, Senator Schuler, looks like you have an assignment dealing with the effective date, but it shouldn't be too hard. So you're up next, file 67. Come on down.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me do both of these at the same time, since they're fairly closely related in some respects. But this next bill is Senate File 67, Multipurpose Vehicles, Disabled License Plates. Again, this was a request from one of my constituents who had purchased an OHV ATV, and his wife was disabled. And, you know, he just assumed that he could go in, get a handicap license plate, and away they would go. Then he had great plans for being able to see all the wonderful things that we have in Wyoming. When he got in and he found out that there was no handicap access license plate for OHVs or multipurpose vehicles, he was rather shocked. And so he talked to the county treasurer, and she said, yeah, we have those disabled plates for cars, trucks, and motorcycles, but there's nothing in the books for, you know, the OHVs and ATVs. And he was shocked. He said, what do we need to do? And so she said, well, I'll get a hold of our legislators and see if maybe we can work on this. So basically what this is just a way to bridge the gap for our ATV enthusiasts. And if you think about it, we're seeing a huge increase in our counties and our cities with ATVs and OHVs, and it just makes so much sense that we offer them the same equal access to handicap parking as we do our vehicles and our motorcycles. And, you know, the biggest thing he worried about was, you know, if I get to a place where, you know, my wife needs to use the restroom or whatever, and I have to park in a parking lot, you know, a long ways away, it's going to be very difficult for her to be a part of this fun thing that we kind of had planned. So, if you take a look at it on page 2, you'll see the license plate is only going to be 3 inches wide and 6 inches long. So it'll be about the same size basically as a motorcycle plate. And it'll have the international symbol of access, and it'll have the appropriate identification, which might be in lieu of the bucking horse and the rider, because I don't think they have those on the motorcycle plates. And then on page 3, you probably will note that special license plates aren't going to be issued to anyone that is eligible only for a temporary removable windshield placard, which sometimes those are given to people that have, you know, had a knee replacement and they're just going to need that temporary plate for a while. This would not be the same thing. So in essence, it was, again, a constituent that had a concern, and I thought it was I had no idea that those plates were not available for folks with OHVs and ATVs. And when he mentioned the fact that, you know, he would actually have to be able to help his wife in and out, he said, there's just no way I can do it if I have to park somewhere, you know, whether it's a parking lot or whether it's on a trail or whatever, to be able to get her close to the facilities that she needs. And so I think it's another one of those things we just, you know, the OHV and ATV thing is kind of blown up, and I don't know if a lot of people have really thought about it. And so, again, it wasn't my idea. It was just a constituent that had this concern. I think it's, I would urge your aye vote. I would stand for questions as
Okay,
well.
any questions for this prime sponsor? Senator Kolb.
Well, this will be better. Multi-purpose vehicle, what is, I tried to look the definition of that up. Is that the right category?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Yeah, and Senator Kolb, that's, our county treasurer actually did the research on it before I got to it, and so she had all the statutes and everything, and basically it would include your side-by-sides, you know, your off-road vehicles, your pretty much anything that's not a motorcycle or a car or truck. So, and there's so many things out there, I would hate to even, you know, start naming them all, but I think you might actually own one that's a pretty nice vehicle. So if you want to get a handicap one for yourself and this passes, you'd sure be welcome.
I'm in the Senate, but follow-up question.
Go ahead.
Just if I looked at it national, you know, a Google search, it was claiming it was a very large vehicle, a multi-purpose vehicle. That's why I was asking to make sure we had the right designation for the state of Wyoming. And I do think it's important that folks know that someone, you know, does have an issue in front of you. So if they're going to drive, you know, maybe they're not going to be able to drive the same as someone else could. So it's good to know as a matter of information that, you know, you're dealing with, especially off-road, that you're dealing with someone that maybe you know, I suppose that's the reason why you did this, to help out, you know, the other drivers, besides letting people park in a restroom. Was that the intent?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, Senator Kolb, yeah, absolutely. I never got a chance to visit with the gentleman. When I talked to the treasurer, she said, well, he doesn't want to bug you, you know, but this is the situation. And he said, you know, he said, I just spent a lot of money on this vehicle. You know, when you spend $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, as much as some people spend on cars, I'm not going to say what, you know, how much people spend on them, but they want to be able to, you know, if they had I'm sure he has a handicap access plate for his regular car or truck. He just didn't realize that this was not available in Wyoming yet. And it's, again, we were just kind of behind the 8 ball. I was surprised as well when the county treasurer contacted me. So yeah, that's the reason. It's not only to help the people. And now let's face it, these OHVs, I mean, some of them can go quite fast. So, you know, but whether or not they're on a trail or they're on a highway that has been designated for that traffic, I don't think it really matters. It just matters that there's someone in there that needs to have access to facilities for the disabled. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Thank you, it does.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the point about multi-purpose vehicles, Senator Brennan actually asked me that same question earlier, and we did look it up together. There is a definition in statute. So I can share it with you offline.
Just make sure, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So there is a definition in statute, so we don't have to like rely on the internet to tell us. We do have it defined in statute.
Our statutes are on the internet, so. But we could. But okay, so I had a question, just doing with, since you didn't cover the bottom page 2, that new language, what's the purpose of that?
Excuse me, could you restate that,
Page
Chairman?
2, lines 20 through 23, what's the purpose of that language in the bill?
I think I think my understanding is that with some of the motorcycles, I think they can have some distinctive symbols on theirs. And I think they're saying that this wouldn't preclude that from happening with the OHV or HTVs or whatever, that they could also do that, but it would depend on the department, I guess, whether or not they could designate it as something special or distinctive.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Thank you, Senator, appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
So, again, YDOT, do you have any testimony?
Mr. Chairman, Debbie Lopez from YDOT. Again, the date is the only thing that we have a concern with. And we can provide language to you later, I just don't have it right now.
Okay, yeah, simple enough, Simon. I'm sure Senator Schuler is fully capable of figuring this one out. So, yeah, we'll get the answer, and I'm sure it'll be a committee of the whole amendment if necessary. Okay, any questions for YDOT? Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Okay, any testimony online? Raise your hand right now. Any in-person testimony? Mr. Winnie, come on down.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Winnie, Sublette County. I apologize, I hadn't thought to testify on all of these, but there you are. At the risk of one more license plate, as Senator Kolb has spoken to earlier, I have a disabled veteran's license plate. I have the mirror hanger. I have a MPV, a Polaris Ranger side-by-side crew. I use it for transportation. I go places that do have disabled parking slots. I don't use the hanger in there because it'd be far too easy for somebody to just reach in and snatch it. So a license plate would provide a utility. I would note that MPVs, in order to have a plate on them, in accordance with statute, have to meet certain requirements. In essence, they have to be roadable. So subject to your questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Winnie. Any questions? Oh, Senator Kolb.
Sorry, it's a Polaris. It's a joke, Mr. Winnie.
Okay.
I
thank you,
just
Mr.
try to
Mayor.
bring a little bit of humor when I get up here and testify. But anyway,
Okay. All right, looks like there's no further questions. Thank you, sir. I think that was even a question. I didn't hear a question. But anyways, anybody online? Okay, so public comment is closed. Committee, what's your pleasure? Okay, it's been moved. Any discussion? Okay, let's go and do a roll call.
Senator Brennan?
Aye.
Senator Furphy?
Aye.
Senator Kolb?
Aye.
Senator Pappas?
Aye.
Chairman Boner?
Aye.
5 ayes.
All right, well, that concludes our business here, committee. Unfortunately, we are going to try and get that last committee bill up on Friday. We're planning on doing it today, but a lot of the Wyout team was out of place, so we went and pushed it to Friday only bill. And hopefully, we won't have too many more Friday meetings, but I think it's important we get that committee bill up. So thank you for your attention and look forward to see you in a
Who's
couple
going to
days.
carry the bill, Mr. Chairman? Who's going to carry the bill?